Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we have Juan Campa with us, and Juan has a very interesting life story. He started out in the fields of Salinas and actually is now down in LA. He's written a book called Rebuilding the Temple. So Juan, it's great to have you on. I just kind of like to hear how you got from the fields to becoming an author.
Well, that's a long story, but we only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to make it short and sweet. So, I have to tell you a little bit about the background. So I have a captain in the Spanish Army that came in 1640, and I have a full-blooded Yaqui Indian chief on my dad's side. My mom's side was the captain. The reason that's important is because working in the fields, I thought I was somebody that I was not. And really, just as I was exploring some of my history and getting to see, like, there was a family that used to come to my house, 14 kids in my family.
Wow.
And they used to come to my house and take me to church. And when they take me to church, I got to see their house. When I was at home, I got to see poverty. When I was in their house, they took me to church. They'd buy me clothes. They'd go to my school events, things like that. So I got to see something completely different. And so that's what I began to pursue. So I studied them. And that's one of the things about transformation is that when you study somebody and you admire the work and the things that they do, it changes or it gives you another dimension that you're not really aware of the fact that it's even happening, because I was only 8 then. So
Yeah. Wow.
that began to move me in a direction where I knew that I was not going to be a field laborer. This is not going to be my life. But I ended up working in the fields till about 16, 17 years old.
And you moved around a lot, as your family did, going from harvest to harvest.
Yeah, because that's what the season actually demanded. So once the harvest was over, the next harvest was coming. And so you would start working there. And if you weren't not planting, but hoeing to get weeds and stuff and fertilize and all that, it was one of those two things that was happening. And so we moved maybe 12 times in 8 years.
Wow. Wow. So then what happened that you all of a sudden became a little more stabilized?
I went into the Marines at 17. Okay, so after seeing what was going on with my family and the dysfunction that I grew up in, I went into the Marines. And the Marines, I started to get a lot of visibility. I got promoted out of boot camp.
Wow.
And by the way, this funny story, just side note. Before I went into the Marines, I weighed 110 pounds.
Whoa.
I was 5'7", and everybody thought I couldn't do it. I ended up going into the Marines and graduating with honors out of boot camp, and I gained like 35 pounds.
All muscle, probably.
Just all in a 3-month period of time.
Wow.
It was crazy. Anyways, going into the Marines, I got to see a lot because I traveled. But I also saw the education and the vitalness or the necessity of pursuing things from a whole different perspective. And I began to pursue my education just one class at a time, literally going to a junior college. And I'd get the most basic math. I just had to reframe, because I dropped out of high school, reframe all of these things. So I'd get an A in a class and an A in a class. And so I graduated at 37 years old with my college degree out of the university.
That's fantastic. So then you all of a sudden got the idea to write a book at some point.
Yeah, well, that happened over a period of probably 30 years. So I started the book 30 years ago. I just published it, and it's on Amazon in April.
Wow. So
yeah, and so it was a lot of the life lessons, and of course I became a Christian by faith, and I'm not religious Christian. I mean, I don't look at things religiously. I look at things out of love, the eye of faith, and the eye of transformation for all people. But it was during that whole period of time that I started to see some miraculous events happen in front of me. And I didn't even understand what they were until I was like, there's no way these things could have happened outside of a dimension spiritually, because they weren't making sense. They just weren't making sense. I'll just give you an example, really 2 minutes. I went to Mexico, helped build a home for a family. And in that community, there wasn't a church.
Oh,
The pastor tells me like, "Hey, there's no faith place for faith in this community. We want somebody to build something there." I'm like, I don't know how to build, or I don't know how to do anything that way, and I don't even know how to raise money. So, but I'm willing to go down there and look for land. So I started looking for land. Like I went 3 times by myself.
wow.
When I went there, the next day, once I found the land, someone stops us in our condominium complex and says, "Hey, John, I've been trying to give money to your church for about 6 months and nobody's calling me. Do you know of a project I can work on?" Within 3 weeks, he knocks on my door and says, "I'm going to give you $15,000 for that land."
Wow.
So I paid it, right? Within another week, I had another 5,000 when I shared that with somebody. Within a week after that, I had another 8,000 because I was standing in front of my Sunday school class and I told them what was happening. So I had $30,000 in such a short period of time that I said, there's no way that these things can happen outside of me.
Right.
And that's when I started to work on the book.
You all of a sudden knew there was something predestined, basically.
Yes, yes. And I believe that's the truth for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You find the right path, or you know the right path.
It just the people will call them synchronicities, or they're this or that, and the reality of it is, no, there's purpose behind this dimension for all people.
Right. And so you're in your book, you describe a way to kind of be, it's sort of a workbook for finding the path that works for you.
Exactly.
Can you give us a little description of some of the ways that you might go about that?
Well, I mean, first of all, just waking up in the morning and saying, first of all, if there's a God, right?
Hmm.
Show me, and then invite me into. If you have a plan for me, because that's what Scripture says. Before you were born, I had knit you together in your mother's womb. So everything post that were events that have shaped us.
Hmm.
So the reason that I comment on that, because post birth, all the choices or events that have influenced us oftentimes are moving us off the mark. And so basically, I introduce people to that. I have them write their story, and then I have them highlight what are the places where you made decisions about yourself, like me working in the fields, impoverished, right? I'm not impoverished anymore. Okay. I own a multi-million-dollar property, I own a business. I'm speaking on at events. So, anyways, the point is that was never my story.
Mm.
So I had to actually, one of them had to die so that the other one can rise up.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that death is not easy, because you're going to have to question a lot of things along the way that were never meant to be. Like you put them in your backpack and they're sitting there, their spiritual backpack that you have there, and it weighs a lot.
Right.
And you're not supposed to, you were never supposed to pick them up. And one of mine was my education, right? Now I have a college degree, an honorary doctorate, and have written a book. So those things were contrary to how I grew up. My mom
Right.
had a third grade education, my dad had a fifth grade education. So where does that come from? Just like the events that I talked about with regards to people giving me money for this project, this church, similarly speaking, it's right in front of you.
So it sounds like this is, even though it's a Christian book and there's Christian quotations and so forth, it sounds like even anyone with any background, any spiritual background or religious background could use this book in some fashion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah.
So let's take that now to kind of our current events. We're actually right now speaking as LA is kind of blowing up. Uh, what do you think is happening with the community in that regard?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to talk to you a few minutes before and really just kind of say like, the biggest challenge that the Hispanic community faces today is fear. Um, Fear for not taking the fullness of responsibility to do the things you're supposed to do while you're here. So if you risk to go see an attorney and then pay your fees and make sure you're paying your taxes and all these things are taking place, well, you can apply for citizenship, and there's a lot of different ways that can happen. It's not just one way. And it doesn't mean that you can't stay. For example, if someone was abused, a spouse was abused,
Hmm.
they can file for an immigration. I forgot what the name of it is, but they can stay just because they have experienced abuse.
Wow.
Or if they're in the military, they can file just because they've been in the military for their family.
The whole family.
Yeah, and so the whole point is that they more walk in fear than in understanding. But if you look at the Hispanic community, I don't know if you have a gardener or anything like that. I do.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you help them, if you educate them in any way, they are so endeared to you, right? And so they're looking for people to help them and give them counsel. They just want somebody to help them teach them, because then they can take the steps necessary. Um,
They
you
are
can
very
actually,
motivated, I must admit. I mean, yeah, we have a cleaning lady and a gardener, and goodness knows how many different people up here that may or may not be documented. And I've always found that any assistance you can give them, they're very grateful for.
yeah, if you teach them how to cut grass, trust me, within 6 months, they're going to go like, hey, I can not only cut grass, but I can go get some flyers, a business card, buy my own lawnmower, and start my business because they're very
Exactly.
industrious. So that community is one of the most rapid growing communities with businesses to start in the U.S.
Well, as you pointed out earlier, the buying power of that group is immense.
Yeah, before in 2012 is 385 billion. Today it's 3.7 trillion, and it will go to about 5 to 6 trillion by the year 2030.
Yeah,
The value of that is massive, especially if you're in real estate, because
right.
because if you don't begin to move in some kind of a space, even if you had an assistant or someone who begin to groom into that space, you can find yourself taking advantage of what that market looks like. The major corporations in the U.S. today are looking at that marketplace, and you see commercials on English-speaking stations that are now in Spanish or briefly in Spanish because they're seeing the value of that.
No, absolutely.
And so it's a really an imperative that if you're in the real estate market, begin to see that okay, if the value of properties is doubling every 10 years, and they own a $700,000 property today, in 10 years it's going to be 1.4 million. They need to be taught how to reinvest or diversify or buy another property or all these things that they could potentially move towards.
Exactly. No, this is a huge market, and obviously people are starting to realize this. The Spanish community has realized this, Spanish speaking community, and certainly Spanish speaking TV has realized this. But I don't know that the general market has completely come around to the fact that this is a huge market that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that there's just well, that fear part, I'll jump back onto that, needs to be worked on. It needs to be handled. You as an employer, you could actually say, hey, my gardener, he works for me, and you could sign for him and he can become a citizen.
Oh, wow.
He can be given like a work visa and all the things, right? So there's ways that we can begin to move in this direction as a community, as a culture that says, I see you and I see value in what you're doing, and those things can grow. And so it's a responsibility. It's actually a humanitarian responsibility, as much as it is a responsibility for us to look at this and go like, hey, do I want to invest into this market? And if you want to diversify and see things going in the future, you're right. You're right where you need to be.
Are you at all familiar with Father Gregory Boyle and the Homeboy Industries Group?
I am. I haven't met Father Boyle, but I've watched and been very closely related to some of the work that he's done, and he's become very popular in the Hispanic
Oh,
culture, both like with the and he's more on the side of the American Hispanic that
right.
third, fourth generation or third generation and beyond gangbangers and stuff like that he's gotten involved with and he's really been a tremendous influence and people celebrate the work that he's done because he started businesses and he's watched the cultural shift from being a gangbanger to now a business owner and then helping other kids move into some space that has value and worth.
Yeah, it sounds very familiar in some ways to what you're doing,
Yeah.
except a little different community effort, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I traditionally focus in on I didn't speak Spanish growing up. I listened to my mom, and then about 30 years ago, I started to speak Spanish,
Oh,
and then
interesting.
I started the first 24-hour Spanish Christian radio station in Los Angeles,
Oh,
and then
wow.
we spread out into San Diego that covers all of Tijuana, and then we're also in the Inland Empire. Now I'm part of a network of about 70 stations across the country. So the reason that's important is because I moved into that culture and I began to see, having worked in the fields, what it is that they struggle with.
You know it from personal experience,
I do.
and you know how, well, you've kind of seen yourself go through that transformation to getting into a different space.
Hence, that's why I wrote the book and that's why it's in Spanish.
Well, yeah, let's end with, where can people find this book? Where can they find you? What's the easiest way to connect with you?
Well, first of all, if you can see my LinkedIn profile. It's under John Campa, but if you look for my book, you can find it on Amazon, called Rebuilding the Temple. And you can reach me if you wanted to at john.campa@me.com.
Me.
Uh, yeah, I'm giving them a simplified email address. And if you wanted to call, you can find me on the profile, of course. My phone number is in the LinkedIn profile,
Oh, cool.
and you can reach out to me there.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, John, I look forward to talking to you again soon. I think that we have a lot more to go over, but for now, we'll see where we go from here, and I look forward to kind of conversing with you in another 3 to 6 months.
Very good. I'm looking forward to it as well. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.